Alright, it's the next day now. We're gonna reassemble everything. I got all my parts cleaned up the best I could. A lot of corrosion and stuff, but it's not gonna bother anything. Now I'm gonna press the bearing in on this far side here. So I put the bearings in the freezer, because when metal gets frozen, it contracts and gets smaller. Now I'm gonna heat this up lightly with my torch to get it to expand. It'll help us get the bearing in there. I got it warmed up a little bit. I got it propped up on a couple blocks of wood here because there's some knobs on the other side that are getting caught on. And what I'm going to use is I got this piece of exhaust flange and the bearing fits perfectly over it. Because you want it so when you pound it in, this has got to be able to go on the inside. But when you pound these bearings in, you don't want to hit anywhere on this black part or this inner race, only this outer part. And you got to drive them in there nice and straight. I don't have a press or anything, so I'm just gonna use this piece of flange here. So I get it started nice and straight. And then I set this on top of it. You're tapped in there a little bit. Alright, so now we got it started pretty straightly in there. You can feel with your finger around there. Now I'm just gonna set this thing on top of it. See if I can drive her in a little bit. Alright, we moved there pretty good. Just take it nice and slow. Make sure you don't hit the inner seal because that'll wreck the bearing if you do that. Alright, we're going in there pretty good. Starting to get a little crooked, so I'm going to hit on this one side to try straightening it out. Alright, there we go. I got her back straight for the most part. Alright, we're almost flush there with that first face. I can use this thing actually just for right now. Going down. Reposition my blocks of wood here. Hit my finger. Alright, we're flush with this first face here, but we gotta keep on going down. So now that's why I'm gonna go back to this exhaust flange here. Alright, we're moving. Just take your time and go nice and slow with it. Once you get down, the flange will not be able to walk off on you because it'll be stuck in there. Or another good thing you can use is you get a socket that'll fit right in here, but I don't have a big enough one that'll fit in there, so that's why I came up with this. They do make bearing ram sets that are the right size that'll fit right in there. You can buy them. I just don't have them, so I've done it this way a long time. So we're slowly moving. Alright, I got my bearing in there. If you look from the back side, you should be able to see the race here. And make sure she's all the way flat with the surface here. And that's how you know you'll be all the way in. Next, you gotta make sure to put the snap ring back in. That should be pretty easy. I'm just gonna take a dab of grease and run it along the lip down here. Make sure to clean that out with your pick before you put this all back together, that groove where the snap ring goes in. Get that on here. Sometimes these things can be a pain in the butt. Pretty much all the way back in there except for that one side here. Got a screwdriver. Make sure she's in there. There it is. Now if you can see it, we're seated all the way down there. Now what's next to do is your seal. I'm gonna set it back in my little board area. Alright, so here's your seal for the side. It's gonna be the bigger one with the bigger hole in the middle. Because when we took the cover off, we pulled that center collar out of there. And that's what's gonna go back in here. When you put it on, you wanna make sure this little rubber lip is facing out. So that side goes up when you're pressing it in. I'm just gonna take a little grease and just go all the way around it here. It'll help it slide in there. Same method, I'm going to use my flange here. It fits on there pretty good. When you use a socket, make sure it's not pushing on this so you don't wreck it. I'm going to try to get her in there straight. The bearing did put up a little bit of a fight, but it's actually going in with my fingers. Alright, now I got her even all the way around. And grab my flange. Sorry. And my other piece and just... Alright, I got the seal in now. I had to back it out because it was going in there crooked, but now I got her in there nice and straight. Now that's just going to come down flush in here. That little aluminum edge there, it's going to be flush with that. Now this side's all done. Alright, now we're at the other side here. Get this other bearing in. There's actually two bearings stacked side by side in here. I got the one already in there. Same method I did as the other side. Heated up the outside, froze the bearing, and it slid right in there. So now I gotta pound the second bearing in. See what we get here. I got it all just came out of the freezer. Now I'm gonna take my torch and just warm this up a little bit. Warm it up too much because I don't want to wreck the other bearing that I just put in there. So let's see if I can get her going straight or not. A little crooked, so straighten it out. Almost got it. Alright, now we got her in there nice and straight. I'm going to take my flange again and try to start tapping her the rest of the way. This is where it becomes a little bit troublesome, but alright, we're moving. We're moving right along here. And you'll hear the noise difference once you bottom out. If you're a really firm knock, so. Alright, we're almost there. Near to be. I don't know if you just heard that, but how the noise changed. That means we're always seated down in there. Alright, there's that bearing in there. Alright, now you got them both stacked side by side. Now you want to take your finger, just make sure they move. And they should both move together because they should be pressed right against each other. So now you got the little split ring here to put back in. This little clip, they should go in pretty easily. Yep, so it'll just click right in there. Just like that. Now we just gotta pop our seal in there, we'll be all good to go. Alright, now I got my seal here. This one's directional too. You want that spring on the inside going inwards. Just like that. And now I'm going to take a little grease and put it around the spring because that thing can pop off of there as you're whacking it in there, but the grease will keep it right in place. And I take a little grease on the outside of the seal too to make it go in nice and easy. Same thing like we did with the bearing. We'll just pop it right in there. Alright, now I want to get it just tucked in just a little bit more. I'm going to use my flange for that. I just tap it in there lightly. Knocking you guys over. Reposition here. There you go. And a little bit more. I think I got it right there, yep. I just want a little bit of lip to hide the seal there. And there we go, our bearings and our seals are pressed in there. Now I'm going to put the brake assembly all back together. Alright, in order to get started here, this is where your, yeah, that's right, this is where your brake thing goes through. And the kit came with a new seal right here. So I'm going to pop the old one out with a screwdriver. Take a little brake cleaner rag, clean this up. Alright, same thing again. A little dab of grease on the seal and press it right in there. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm just using regular wheel bearing grease. Helps keep all the water out. Alright, now I'm just going to take a socket that fits it. Just press it right on in there. Should just be able to do it by hand here. Yep, just like that. It's in there. Now, I'm going to flip her over. And this thing, your brake actuator, I'm just going to cover this all in grease and stick it in here. Alright, got it lubed up. I stick that in there, it moves nice and smoothly. You know, wipe off any excess that oozed out because we don't want this getting on our brake shoes because it's going to decrease our stopping ability. Alright, that back in there. I'm going to put a little dab of grease on here, and on this pin. Just a very light coating. We don't want none of it slinging off to get on our brakes. We just don't want them to stick and rust up. Grant you, water will probably get in here again and do that. It's nature of the beast. Now my surfaces are all greased up. Got my brake pads, brake shoes. Here's a little trick I've learned with these. I'm gonna set something underneath here. Get that pin to stay down. Orient your pin straight with the other one. Now here's your brake shoes. Now what you should do, you just fold them like this. Sometimes this works. You can set it over that pin, over that one. Yep, and just pop them right on. Make sure they're all seated in place, just like that. Now that's how they should be in there. Right on the pin. Make sure all your things are even, lined up. Same thing with this thing. Now the kit also comes with a new O-ring to seal this thing in right around here. Just like that. I'm gonna put a little dab of grease around the whole O-ring. Just wipe it on there. Get it a little tacky so she doesn't fall off. Alright. Now that will go right around here. Gonna be playing with us, right? There we go. Take a little more grease, just make sure she's well lubed up. Alright, I got my whole rear end cleaned up here. There's a seal in here that I cleaned, and I just packed that whole tube and all that full of grease. Because water's gonna get in there, I'm gonna try to protect it with some grease. So my axle has a good bit of wear on it. If you see those two grooves right there, look at my finger at them. That groove and that groove, that's from the two outer bearings over there. But I goobered everything up with some grease, the splines and everything. So I'm not gonna replace it. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna try to slide this right down the center so we don't get too much grease all over the end of it yet. Alright. Just gotta keep wiggling it and turning it. Something's holding us. We're gonna grab a little rubber mallet and tap the end of our axle. Give it a little persuasion to get in there. Oh yeah. Nice and tight there now. Alright, now we're gonna put the brake drum back on. And before I did that, I made sure the two pieces, the brake pads will fit inside the brake drum so it doesn't give us any issues. Now I'm just gonna slide her on here. Put a little grease on the splines. Now that will fit nice and good on there. Now I'm gonna put a little grease on that seal on this outer cover so we don't tear it or anything going in. Just a tab on the bearings. Now we're gonna try sliding it in, but I have seen some issues when they still fit in the brake drum, but once you go put this on, they don't want to fit. So let's see what happens. Alright, I got her all back together here. Not gonna lie, it was a fight to get them in there because these aftermarket brake shoes were a little too big. I had to grind down the ends, like I said. But I ground them down to enough where I got just perfect clearance for the brakes. I got pushed back in there. But when you get it back in there, make sure you have no gap here before you tighten your bolts because you don't want to draw them in with the bolts. You can snap off these ears and there's something not in there right. That's why you're getting resistance. So I'm going to tighten these all up with the ratchet. Then I'm going to torque them down to 15 foot-pounds. Alright, now once you get your spacer in there, now you want your spring washer. Make sure you have it the right way. That'll go right in there. Now this is a one-way washer. This one's labeled, it'll say this side out. Now that will go on. Just like that. Now your first big nut. And then your second nut will go on behind it. Alright, now we can put our brake actuator back on. This has a little bit of assembly. Alright, so first of all, you got this little piece with an arrow on it. This will tell you how much your brake pads are worn off. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but you see that flat spot in the teeth, and there's a flat spot on these splines. So you just gotta line that up. There's the spring. Now your actuator. That's also got a flat spot on the splines. Alright, I did a little screw up here from dicking with these brakes so much. You see this little dot right here and here? So this shaft is supposed to be spun around facing that way. It's not gonna affect anything. It's just that you gotta line it yourself. So just make sure you put this in the right way when you go put the brakes together. But this dot is facing towards the back, towards this arrow here. And that's why my wear indicator is way up here, because it has to be spun around back here. But I'm not taking it back apart, so that's where it's going. Right, now we just put our bolt back in. There's that. Alright, I got this all tightened down here. 15 foot-pounds, I tightened that too. Now I gotta put our brake cables all back on. Alright, now to adjust these, I just bring them up until they're just hitting. Just till it starts to move that lever. I'm gonna leave mine back a little bit because I have a lot of brake pad on there. It doesn't move much because of those stupid brake pads I got on there. But this top one's for your handlebar. This lower one's for your rear foot peg brake. That's right to bring them up till they're just touching. So just like that. That's where I leave them. Alright, now we can put this hub back on. Again, with the grease. I like to apply a lot of grease so nothing seizes up. Make sure everything stays nice and lubed so your hubs come off. Because I did my dad's quad once and they were frozen on there. Had to heat it up a lot and all sorts of crap just to get them off. Now you slide your hub back on here. There's a nut. I was going to use my impact and lock her down in a minute here. This ain't threading on too nicely, so I'm going to do it by hand. Alright, you want to keep tightening it until one of the holes line up on the axle. Alright, now I'm there. Got my new cotter pin. See if we get it through here. Alright, it's got to get turned just a little bit more. Should be able to make it now. Just like that, and I like to take the longer leg of the cotter pin here, if I get it turned around. My stubborn little freaking... Usually it'll spin around in there. I like to take the longer leg and pull that on back. When you pull that back, fold it over the axle, now let's push this other one in. Just like that. Hubs are on there nice and good. Ready? Alright, let's check for some play here. See, I have a little bit because my axle's got some wear on it. Not a whole lot. The other side's nice and tight though, so job well done. Alright guys, thanks for watching. That's how you replace rear axle bearings on 2001 Honda Sport Trax 250EX. Also, don't forget to put your skid plate back on. I almost forgot to do that, so. Other than that, everything's working. I had it up on the jack running. Everything's twirling right, no noises, everything's tight. So, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one.